General Robert E. Lee at Lee Park in the Oaklawn area. The popular wedding spot features Arlington Hall, a building modeled after Lee's mansion in Arlington, Virginia, now the site of Arlington National Cemetery. Fox 4's Calvert Collins is at the park tonight, where protesters had met earlier in hopes of rededicating the park. Calvert.
And Heather, this was really a show of symbolism, where the organizer asked Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings to reconsider the names, the statues and monuments like the one you see there, dedicated or named after Confederate heroes. A strong pull for change, not the statue itself, but what it represents.
We want to tear down the mythology surrounding it.
Millions of people died and were
These protesters want to undedicate the statue of Robert E. Lee, the commanding general of the Confederate Army and a slave owner.
Well, he is a symbol of enslavement of my ancestors. So when I look at the Confederacy overall, I cannot help but recall the horrific institution of slavery.
There's a noose around the small horse's neck.
The group held signs and pictures of abolitionists Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth, hoping Lee Park can be renamed Freedom Park.
We can't pretend that racism does not exist. It does. And we can't continue to embrace the symbols of racism and then justify it as culture.
But not every onlooker supported their view.
I find it's kind of improper and slightly offensive to see people bearing signs that say "Free the Park from Lee."
We asked Tarleton State American history professor Michael Landis, where do you draw the line between history and hate?
The flags of the Confederacy, the leaders of the rebellion, Lee, Davis, all the way down to the privates, are a part of our nation's history and should never be forgotten or eliminated or removed from the history. But what we need to do is be honest about what these men fought for and what they represented.
Well, Lee Park and Arlington Hall Conservancy runs the park and said in a statement tonight that the Dallas Park Board, City Council, and Texas Historical Commission are the decision makers in changing the name of the park or any of the artwork on property. And it said it also supports an open dialogue of talking about if there is a need to rename any part of this area. And at this point, Stephen, Heather, there are no plans to rename the park.
Said Confederate history still evoke raw emotions. About 700 protesters faced off yesterday in New Orleans, where several monuments are being removed. Michelle Miller is in New Orleans. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. All quiet now, but the battle lines are drawn over the probable removal this week of that monument to a Civil War icon and others like it. The white mayor of this predominantly black town says keeping these symbols of the Confederacy on a pedestal is out of step with today's values of inclusion. Hey, hey, ho, ho, let's
We want him to stay here. We know he's coming down, but you know what? That's not going to stop us from coming out here.
We want a voice.
We want a voice, okay?
We want our voice.
The city wasn't given a voice. The city wasn't given a vote. They voted him in the city council and the mayor, and he did not give a vote to the people. That's unheard of. They could have put it on the November election. Let the people have a say-so in it. I've heard about all these polls. There's 70-something% in favor. We've had black people, we've had white people, we have yellow people drive by us over Jeff Day giving us a thumbs up saying keep the monuments. But we've also had the negative, okay? A lot of the people that are negative aren't even from here. We're from here. My son was born here. My grandson's born here. I lived here 50-something years. My dad was in the Army. That's why I wasn't born here. My dad fought in 3 wars for us to do the things we want to do. And here I am. I'm doing what I want to do to try to have a say-so to protect him.
What's it going to be like watching him come down tomorrow?
I'll tell you what it felt like with the other ones. I cried. It's so sad. When you remove history from a city that is full of history, what have you got? Where's it going to stop?
Force over the planned removal of a Confederate statue. Watch this.
Listen closely later this day how we hear the news narrative change on this.
This ugly scene unfolded just moments ago. From what we understand, clergy members have just arrived at Emancipation Park. That's the site of that protest today, leading groups in prayer. Meantime, militiamen armed with guns also began arriving a short while ago, and you see the result. Police are expecting thousands of people to show up for this demonstration today. The actual event was supposed to start an hour from now, but obviously the tensions in the crowd boiled over. All of this following violent clashes breaking out at a white nationalist march last night at the University of Virginia.
Panic and chaos, a car plowing through a crowd of people protesting against a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville. Go, 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 go! This morning, the suspected driver, 20-year-old James Alex Fields Jr., is behind bars. Authorities say Fields, a registered Republican, lives in Maumee, Ohio, almost 8.5 hours away. His mother telling the AP she knew her son was traveling to Virginia for a rally.
I didn't know it was white supremacists. I thought it had something to do with Trump. Trump's not a supremacist.
This video showing Fields under arrest shortly after the crash. It happened just before 2 p.m. Counter-protesters marching through downtown sent scrambling.
A car just plowed through hundreds of people downtown Charlottesville.
Here you can see the silver 2010 Dodge Challenger barreling down the hill toward a sea of targets with little time to react, slamming to a stop only after it hit a van and another car. Blocked in, that car shifting in reverse, screeching back down the street to get away.
Shoes all over the ground, pools of blood all over the ground, people screaming.
One person, a 32-year-old woman, left dead. 19 more rushed to the hospital, 5 in critical condition.
I can tell you that the injuries are ranging from life-threatening to minor at this point.
The destructive aftermath on the street, leaving bystanders searching for their loved ones.
I need my sister!
Others jumping in, carrying those hurt in the collision, desperately searching for help. This following nearly 24 hours of unrest.
White lives matter! White lives matter!
White nationalists stormed the University of Virginia's campus Friday night, protesting plans to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee.
Blood and soil! Blood and soil!
The violence only escalating Saturday, chaos in the streets as demonstrators clashed with counter-protesters. The governor declaring a state of emergency.
There is fighting happening in the streets!
Police using pepper spray. Then the situation taking that deadly turn.
You're still shaking.
I am coming down. I saw the car coming down the hill, throwing bodies over top of it until the car cleared and saw the smashed windshield. That's going to stay with me for a while.
And Fields was charged with second-degree murder as well as failing to stop at a deadly accident. He is being held without bond, guys.
Terrorists go home!
Terrorists go home! Terrorists go home! Terrorists go home!
Terrorists go home! Terrorists go home! Terrorists go home! Terrorists go away! Terrorists go away! Terrorists go away! Terrorists go away! Freaking water? Is that what you're doing?
Dude, I guess you didn't get mad,
You have a home to go to, you have people. There are people who are dead here and are injured in the hospital and you are fucking here doing this, but you can just stand up and get
Terrorists go home!
Get out of here!
Terrorists go home! Terrorists down! Terrorists down! Terrorists down! Terrorists down! Racists go home! Racists go home! Racists go home! Racists go home! It's not patriotic now.
I wanted to honor my ancestors today, sir. They need to know that what they fought for wasn't slavery or oppression of people.
Where are they?
Thank you, sir.
Flag is back here.
When
Put it in there.
innocent are being terrorized by him and his cronies. So,
You're doing what you asked.
can't walk out of the park by yourself, huh? So proud and brave.
You want another day like Saturday, don't you?
You should be ashamed of yourself.
That blood is on your hands,
No, it's
not mine.
But you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
It's on both sides, sir. You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Kill the person. Heather hired
Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as the owner. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
The press treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly? No, I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this. There are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final? Does anybody have? You have an infrastructure.
What makes you think you can get an infrastructure bill? You didn't get health care.
Well, you know, I'll tell you. We came very close with health care. Unfortunately, John McCain decided to vote against it at the last minute. You'll have to ask John McCain why he did that. But we came very close to health care. We will end up getting health care. But we'll get the infrastructure, and actually infrastructure is something that I think we'll have bipartisan support on. I actually think Democrats will go along with the infrastructure.
But wait, don't go yet. There's more coming right up.
We are back with breaking news out of Boston tonight. An iconic statue featuring Abraham Lincoln will come down. The Boston Art Commission voting unanimously to remove the Emancipation Memorial in Park Square tonight. The memorial coming under fire in recent weeks because of its depiction of Lincoln standing over a freed slave. The commission plans to put into detailed documentation of the artwork into an archive. The statue is a copy of the original Emancipation Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Did you remember the reasons for the Charlottesville protest? Were you aware of what President Trump really said regarding the incident? And that many historical statues have been taken down and replaced.